He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses. These are three of the grievances levied by the Continental Congress against George III in the Declaration of Independence. Donald Trump, despite hanging a copy of the Declaration of Independence in the White House.
And it's very cool.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that great?
Is unconcerned with the fact that he is currently doing all of these things. What can we call this except for tyranny? Kilmar Abrego Garcia was kidnapped by government thugs and shipped to a foreign gulag in El Salvador, despite the fact that there was a court order explicitly forbidding the government from sending him to El Salvador. Mr. Garcia came here undocumented when he was 16 in 2019. An immigration judge forbade the government from sending him back to El Salvador because of well-founded fears that he would be targeted by gangs there. The Supreme Court with 3 Trump appointees and more conservatives than not, was unanimous in its decision. The Trump administration is required to facilitate Garcia's return to the United States and then handle his case as if he had not been shipped to a foreign gulag. The administration has responded by saying that this is a matter of foreign policy, so nobody can tell them what to do. And the word facilitate is actually much different than the word effectuate when you think about it. And that means that really they don't have to do anything at all to bring Mr. Garcia home to his wife and child. I'll be as clear as I possibly can about this. Anyone who says that these word games are good faith legal arguments is at best absolutely delusional. The administration is clearly defying the unanimous will of the Supreme Court of the United States and then acting like cowards and lying about what they're actually doing. This is not surprising. This is something that the Trump administration has been promising.
Fire every single mid-level bureaucrat, every civil servant in the administrative state, replace them with our people. And when the courts, because you will get taken to court, and then when the courts stop you, stand before the country like Andrew Jackson did and say the Chief Justice has made his ruling, now let him enforce it.
Adam Serwer at The Atlantic, I think, described the situation best. The administration is following the Supreme Court's ruling by ignoring it completely. This rhetorical game the administration is playing where it pretends it lacks the power to ask for Abrego Garcia to be returned, while Bukele pretends he doesn't have the power to return him, is an expression of obvious contempt for the Supreme Court and for the rule of law. The administration is maintaining that it has the power to send armed agents of the state to grab someone off the street and then, without a shred of due process, deport them to a gulag in a foreign country and leave them there forever. The crucial point here is that the administration's logic means that it could do the same to American citizens. After all, if deporting someone under a protective order to a gulag without so much as a hearing is a foreign policy matter with which no court may interfere, then the citizenship of the condemned person doesn't matter. And here's the point I'm really trying to make in this video. Mr. Abrego Garcia, the individual, as a technical matter, was accidentally sent to a foreign gulag, but the fact that he was sent there as a matter of policy was not, in any sense of the word, an accident. It is fully what the Trump administration intended, and that's how we should treat it. The nature of how somebody ended up on a target list, accidentally or not, is literally irrelevant to the Trump administration's logic here. The Trump administration, as they've made clear in their legal filings and in their public statements, does not care that Mr. Abrego Garcia wasn't a criminal, and they do not care that it was illegal for them to put him on that plane to El Salvador. They are claiming the power to imprison anybody they want with no due process and then disappear them to a place that they claim they cannot return someone from. This could be you. This could be a citizen, a non-citizen, a tourist, anyone. And the Trump administration's logic would be exactly the same. And just to be clear as well, sending citizens to the gulag isn't just a logical extension of the legal reasoning of this case. It's something that the Trump administration is actively pursuing.
Homegrown criminals next. Yeah. I said homegrowns are next. The homegrown's built. You got to build about 5 more places.
Yeah, that's big.
All right. It's not big enough.
No, yeah.
Come on.
If you've ever found yourself wondering about this case, why is the Trump administration spending so much time and energy defending the results of something they themselves acknowledge was a mistake? This is why. Because they want the power to do this to anyone. If they can make it happen in this case, if they can defy the Supreme Court in this case, They can do it in all cases. They can defy the Supreme Court in all cases. The question we're facing here is bigger than the case of Mr. Abrego Garcia. It's bigger than immigration law. It's bigger than constitutional law, even, frankly. The question we're forced to confront by the Trump administration's flagrant disregard for the life of Mr. Abrego Garcia and for a unanimous order of the United States Supreme Court is if this is a nation of laws at all. It's looking less and less so, isn't it? The Trump administration internally, as we saw with the Signal group chat leaks and in the relationships between administration officials, is being run in a way that more closely resembles court politics than anything we'd expect from a modern constitutional republic. It's a place where the primary currency isn't reason or correctness, it's access to the king, managed by a gaggle of scheming advisors with what might be generously described as questionable competence. Thomas Paine said that in absolute governments, the king is law, but in free countries, the law ought to be king. If the Trump administration can abduct someone in clear violation of the law, and if the administration can ignore a Supreme Court order to follow the law, and if Congress won't hold the Trump administration accountable for breaking the law, then we do not live in a nation of law. We live in the personal kingdom of Donald Trump and his advisors. I really want to emphasize just how fundamental this is. We consent to be governed because by giving up absolute individual freedom and working together, we can achieve higher and more freedom. But this arrangement can only be legitimate if the government is obligated to respect the rights of individuals. The Trump administration is, in essence, claiming that the only rights you have are the ones they choose to respect in your case. If they decide that it's important enough, they're claiming the right to void every single one of your rights. If Donald Trump consulted the copy of the Declaration of Independence in his office, he would find that this is a total rejection of American ideals and principles. Americans believe that people self-evidently possess certain inalienable rights. We possess them self-evidently, not because of the circumstances of our birth, not because Donald Trump chooses to grant them to us. One of the rights that our Constitution enshrines is the right to due process. The Fifth Amendment says that no person can be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process or law. No person, not no citizen, not no person who supports the Trump administration, no person. Brian Kilmeade on Fox, just the nation's leading cable news network, called for the end of due process.
You have a constitutional right that is actually, they are afforded to illegals in this country. We should revisit that.
But I also think it's not practical to think that we can do due process on 8 million people.
No.
There's 22 million people here, and minimum illegal already just in the last 3 administrations. And there's some people that got through with Trump's administration. If we're going to give these guys a day in court and a lawyer, we can't do it. They don't deserve it.
You occasionally hear people say that due process shouldn't be given to criminals or illegal immigrants. To those people, I'd say never, ever claim to care about the Constitution or the Bill of Rights ever again. And also, due process is how we determine if somebody is a criminal or an illegal immigrant. Without due process, all it takes is an accusation from the government to condemn you to prison, or apparently a lifetime sentence in a foreign gulag. I'll quote The Atlantic one more time. As Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote in a statement joined by Justices Elena Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson accompanying the Supreme Court's order last week, which was issued with no public dissents. The government's argument, moreover, implies that it could deport and incarcerate any person, including U.S. citizens, without legal consequence, so long as it does so before a court can intervene. More broadly, this matter is no longer just about deportations or undocumented immigrants. The Trump administration's defiance of a Supreme Court order is a new step into presidential lawlessness in that it suggests that the administration will not abide by any court orders it does not feel like complying with. To state the obvious, if the evidence against these men were ironclad, the Trump administration would not need to violate the Constitution to put them in prison. The reason it is deporting people to an overseas gulag is because it wants to look like it is being tough on criminals without having to investigate whether the people it is being tough on have committed any crimes. An administration that claims the right to send anyone, including citizens, to a foreign gulag that refuses to respect even the most basic right to due process is an administration that has violated its deal with the people it governs. The administration for now is retaining a superficial appearance of operating within the bounds of the Constitution with its fig leaf, effectuate, facilitate distinction. So I would expect that the majority of Republicans will follow the party line for now, But it's obvious where this is going, isn't it? The Trump administration is using this issue as a warning shot. They're telling the Supreme Court, really the entire judicial branch that they've been agitating for an ideologically driven purge of, that they will not comply with the law when it does not suit them. Jonathan Last of the Bulwark, I think, explained the situation that the Supreme Court finds itself in pretty well. So the question is the Supreme Court willing to risk a final showdown on presidential power and authoritarianism in America at this moment? I can see it both ways. On the one hand, the court is vulnerable. There is no institution within the federal government to join it in a final stand against the executive. If it waits until 2027, then perhaps one house of Congress will be capable of standing with it in battle. And if SCOTUS pushes all in on this case and loses, then it can no longer even pretend to have any authority over the executive. After just 3 months of Trump's rule, the Constitution will have become a dead letter. On the other hand, the case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia is not a technical abstraction. It's not about some theory of government functioning. It is about the president's use of secret police to abduct a man from American soil and send him to a foreign gulag. For the Supreme Court to allow the government's actions to stand after declaring them unanimously to be unconstitutional is to declare open season on all enemies of the president. I can't tell you what's going to happen now. No one can tell you what's going to happen now. I can tell you 3 things, though. First, the Trump administration illegally abducted someone and then sent them to a foreign gulag from which they claim there is no return. Second, the Trump administration is claiming that they have the right to do this to anyone at their discretion and is actively planning to do it to American citizens. Third, the Trump administration is defying an explicit, unanimous order from the United States Supreme Court to not do this. We'll see if there's any fight or civic virtue left in our institutions soon. In the meantime, I'd like to return to one of my favorite quotes and ask you to consider it, from Rousseau. The most important law of all is not carved in marble or brass, but in the hearts of the citizens. It forms the true constitution of the state, takes on new powers every day, reinvigorates or supplants other laws when these grow old or die away, maintains in a people the spirit with which it was established, and imperceptibly substitutes the force of habit for the power of authority. I am speaking about morality and customs, and above all, about public opinion, a subject unknown to our political thinkers, but one on which the success of all the rest depends. Thanks so much. Please consider liking, subscribing, commenting, and sharing this video with a friend if you feel the way that I do about this stuff. It helps the video get to more people. See you next time.